Hey kiddos, thank you for joining me again. I've been enjoying telling you the story about Joseph. Today I want to tell you what happens next in Joseph's life. This is a phenomenal story and it has really encouraged me in my life, and I hope you can learn something new about Joseph's story in these as I tell it to you. So let's do a little recap of Joseph and how it's going for him right now. So remember a couple weeks ago, I talked about how Joseph had these dreams, and he has lots of brothers, but he told his brothers that, and most of them were his older brothers. He told them that they were going to be bowing down to him and that they would obey Joseph, and even his parents would obey Joseph and bow down to Joseph, and they didn't like his dreams, and they didn't like Joseph very much either. Joseph was his father's favorite, and they were jealous of that. And so a little while later, his brothers, they were shepherds, and they were taking care of the sheep, and then they saw Joseph coming to check on him, just to see how they were doing. And then they thought they would kill him, and then Joseph's other brother said, no, let's not kill him. Let's save Joseph. And so they threw him in a pit, and then some people, they're called slavers, and they take people and make them work. These guys came by, and Joseph's brothers sold him to these slavers. So the slavers took Joseph all the way to Egypt, and his father thought he had died. So here, at this point of the story, let's read what happens next. Joseph. This part of the story is in Genesis chapter 39. Joseph was put under an officer named Potiphar. Potiphar was a captain of the guard, and Potiphar was a very important man in Egypt. And so Joseph was put with Potiphar, and he was gonna help Potiphar take care of his house. And God, he was with Joseph. He actually blessed Joseph even though he was a slave. And because Joseph was living in Potiphar's house, God decided to bless Potiphar and his house and all the crops that Potiphar was growing. He blessed Potiphar because of Joseph. And so Potiphar was doing pretty well, and he decided to put everything under Joseph's care. It says that Potiphar didn't care about anything in his house except the food that he ate, because he trusted Joseph with everything else. And so it says later on that, it was going so well for Joseph, but an Egyptian wanted Joseph to do something that he shouldn't. And Joseph said, "Why would I sin against God?" So God blessed him with a lot, and Joseph realized that he shouldn't do something he shouldn't here because God has blessed him with all this. And so he said, "I'm not going to sin against God after I've been given all of this responsibility." And he said no, which is really cool. But the person still wanted Joseph to do what he shouldn't do and kept on pushing him, and then Joseph was actually put in prison because they framed him. They said that he did something he shouldn't, and then Joseph got put in prison. And so you'd think Joseph would be really, really upset now, but it says that even in prison, whenever Joseph was put in prison for something he didn't do, that God blessed him in prison too. And so when he was in prison, the guy who was in charge of all the prisoners, he saw something good in Joseph, and he actually gave Joseph the responsibility of everything in the prison as well. So Joseph became the boss in the prison, and the guy who guarded all the prisoners, he gave everything to Joseph to take care of, and he was able to relax because Joseph, he did such a good job. And that's the story of Joseph we're going to go through today. I love that part because it shows how self-controlled Joseph was at obeying God and giving God the credit. And remembering why he had what he had, right? I think this part of the story definitely reminds me of something Jesus did too. We realized last week, remember how Joseph was like Jesus in a lot of ways? They have a lot of similarities. So this story reminds me of how Joseph whenever he's tempted, he can overcome it. And whenever he wants to do something he shouldn't, he thinks about it. And he says, oh, no. God's given me all that I have, and I shouldn't disobey God for something that he didn't give me. So the story of Jesus this reminds me of is before he started doing all his miracles and before he started telling everybody who he was and what he came for, it says that Jesus went out into the desert for 40 days. The devil came to Jesus at the end of those 40 days. The devil started tempting him, and the devil was tempting him with some pretty big things. This is in the book of Luke, chapter 4. He said, the devil said to Jesus, "To you I will give all this authority and all their glory." And he's talking about the whole world, all the kingdoms. "It's been delivered to me, and I will give it to whom I will. If you then will worship me, it will all be yours." Jesus answered him, "It is written, 'You shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve.'" So Jesus said no to accepting all the world because it says in the Bible that we should only worship God. If Jesus was to bow down to the devil, then he could not be worshiping God when he does that. And so Jesus said no. And he said, "It's written that you should worship the Lord your God and serve him only," just like Joseph did. I hope we can find ways to worship God and serve him only. And if there's things that are tempting us and make us want to do something we shouldn't, remember that it says in the Bible that we need to worship God and serve him only. And so let's think about what that means to us this week, and also realize that everything we have is a gift from God. So let's think also about all the things we have in our lives that God has given us. God really blessed Joseph and gave him so much. He put him in charge of so many big things in Egypt, and that's really cool. So wherever you're at, wherever you're living, whatever room you have that your parents gave you, whatever food you get at your table, and whatever chores you have to do, let's realize God gave that to you so that you could do a good job at them and worship him for it. Thank you so much for sitting in. I can't wait to see you guys again, and I hope you're all feeling well, and I'll catch you later. God bless.